and I took a few days break, but I'm back now and we are seeing tons more content. Give me 1 second, guys. What's happening here? All right, so this looks fine, right? Yeah, it does look fine. We are live to go. So super huge news today, actually, guys.
The bill upon reconsideration is not passed. The nays are...
So there's going to be a government shutdown. It's confirmed now. Democrats have voted.
So yeah, it's crazy what's happening right now. Of course, if you're wondering why I have this on, it's because it is getting very cold at my place. And basically US shutting down hasn't happened for a long time, but I don't think it will affect prices that much.
To shut down the government. That's what we're seeing. They call it the summer shutdown, you know. So obviously, and I have this, if you're not working for the federal government, well, you're gonna be okay, but there's a lot of people
loses 89%. Here's who works without pay and who goes home. Does that mean but this failed, so this won't happen, but otherwise 90% of people, 87% would be fired, right?
We'll have a conversation about it. Also, we got some major
so we're interested in XRP here.
Once I feel much better, once we head back and I have more time, I want to digest this more. But just came out 6 hours ago. Some of you know, but this is breaking. This is big. This is huge. What do you mean, Oscar? Well, David Schwartz, CTO, is stepping down after so many years in different capacities, including Ripple. And Brad Garlinghouse, as you're seeing on the screen, he is saying the smartest and maybe the funniest person I know. A true OG in the crypto.
So yeah, I feel like he left because he's already a multimillionaire, and now it's really gonna get in the long grind for XRP. We're talking about 10-year plan, and if you're a multimillionaire, maybe you're gonna be focusing on other projects as well. So just let that sink in. It's not gonna be just like people think. Okay, it's gonna be super easy. If you're owning this type of company, it is taking multiple billions of dollars worth of expenses to keep XRP running. And David leaving, this is probably why he left, for this simple reason, is because it's a very stressful job.
With the conviction and vision to see what others couldn't. You're a legend. We'll chat about it, guys. And the price of XRP taking a little bit of a retracement, totally normal.
Yeah.
And the good, and the news that I told you yesterday, but if you don't, and I'm starting to get...
So the White House has started preparing for government shutdown, but this is just a meme. It's not actually going to happen. So it has failed and everything is fine.
Better, but man, the worst time to get sick, but sometimes you cannot control that, right? It sucks, but I gotta say that the people that are, that are coming with BTCC and my friends here are amazing, and they've been supporting me a lot. So I'm not gonna be so active, but I wanted to give you an update, and that's it, right? I want to take care of my health too. Now, you can go down the rabbit hole and get everyone's perspective. Welcome to the...
this is just politics, right? You can get 15 different opinions, but in the end, I don't think it's gonna be very, very small compared to how much people are saying this is big. When you look at US politics, you gotta look at what XRP actually has to offer.
Summer shutdown, will this affect... well, maybe, right? We'll have to see, because they will wait a few more days until they come together. I've seen other government shutdowns. I think during Obama, the first
like that
Trump,
for 7 years, yeah.
Presidency, he didn't have any shutdown. Biden, he didn't have any shutdown, if I'm not mistaken. And now this is the first shutdown under Trump. So it's been a while. We are seeing that the price of everything is not really reacting much. So
because it's not that big of a thing as people feel like, that's the thing. I don't really think it's going to be a game changer.
Good, right? It's absolutely phenomenal, which it kind of tells you that this will just last a little bit longer, but we continue buying the dip.
Probably until October, right?
Period. Okay, check this out. David the myth, the legend. As happens in one's life, I've been talking stock of my last 40 years. It's been a wild ride. I've gone from consulting, watching early stages of Bitcoin, meeting a lot of great people, right? Coding for the XRP ledger, and now spend more than 13 years at Ripple. Imagine that, guys. 13 years at Ripple. For those who don't know, he replied to a comment saying, "Hey David, when was the first time that you bought XRP? When was the price? What was the price that you got XRP for the first time?" He replied 0.006. I remember. It comes to show that obviously he's well off, but he's been a long...
So 13 years of holding XRP. I mean, these people are basically multi-millionaires. And of course, it comes a lot of stress when you're a CTO. A lot of questions, a lot of problems. I'm not too surprised why he left. At this point, like, it's about focusing on more projects that he loves to do. Like, if you did the same thing, I think a lot of people would be bored of that as well.
Term holder. When we talk about holding XRP, some people want to see a day return, a month return, a week return. This guy, David, held, and he might continue holding, but at least for 13 years, right? Shows, guys, that it's paying off really well. I think that's a great example for you to understand. Buy the dip and don't panic sell. All right? So let us know in the comments down below, fam, and join us so you get a chance for 3,000 XRP, which is incredible. That's why I ask BTCC, come on, guys, help me out. I want my community to have a bigger chance. So I can't begin to explain the depth of gratitude to this company, the people who work here, and the community that surrounds XRPL. It's only been one of the greatest honors. Amazing. The time has come for me to step back and, obviously take time for family, grandkids, kids, which is the best way of living. But be warned, I'm not going away from the XRP community.
So yeah, I feel like he's still going to be active, still going to be paid, which is completely fine. That's okay. But again, focusing on other projects, because, man, I feel like 2026 is going to be a very important year for XRP, just with how much development they have. So it makes total sense for him, like, not to get involved and focus on other projects as well.
That's awesome. You haven't seen the last of me now or ever. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be super active on X, and I think that's how people got to know David. So, guys, it's going to be crazy for everybody holding XRP right now. This is just, I think, good news that there's going to be new blood leading XRPL Ripple, and that's going to be someone that he knows is going to do a phenomenal job and can continue, or maybe bring some new ideas. So Brad and Monica, gratitude, leaders who have been here nearly as long as I have, and the very soul of Ripple itself. Chris, who took a huge leap of faith and never wavered, to Arthur, who had the big ideas every time we needed. This is pretty cool, guys. I'll still be in and out of Ripple office as CTO Emeritus. And as my last task at Ripple, Chris asked me to join Ripple's board of directors to continue supporting the company. So this is awesome, because eventually he's no longer going to be an officer for the day-to-day, but he will be a part of the board of directors. So he will still have a say, and that's amazing, right? And he accepted. Seems like he accepted. And I accept. There you go. I look forward to seeing the rest of XRP community events around the world.
So yeah, he's going to be in the background because he probably holds a very big portion of XRP, so that matters as well. And it kind of makes sense to me, like, he's not going to be selling all of his XRP. It's not going to affect the XRP prices, but it is problematic.
And everyone reacting, right? Yeah, so guys, if you are a part of the XRP community, if you're watching this, if you're saying, man, we didn't have the chance to meet him at his prime maybe 5, 6, 8 years ago when he was fighting all the FUD and, getting in and out, and can only imagine the battles, right, when they got sued. But now, after winning the SEC and cases and lawsuits, it's a very good way of living. That's awesome. I love it, guys. I love it. So with that, I tell you the latest. I'm excited Let's go Ripple. Government shutdown confirmed. Here is the first, but a couple hours, and then you guys are gonna turn October Pumptober. So we'll.
So yeah, again, I don't think Pumptober is gonna be a real thing. A lot of influencers are calling. I think it's delayed until end of October because we got a lot of bad news. Like, of course, people are gonna be saying Pumptober, but when you look at the news, it is not looking that great. Again, I could be wrong here, but Pumptober is canceled basically, in my opinion, or maybe late end of October. Like, the markets need to recover right now. We're already in October, and that's the big problem I'm seeing. XRP confirmed. Ripple president just dropped massive news. So there's another one we have today. So yeah, Ripple CEO saying something big. Again, yeah, a lot of people left the XRP community. A lot of people changed, and that's what happens in crypto. They swap from one place to another.
October and Q4 2025 could be the single most important moment in this asset's history. Buckle up, because this is about to get bullish. Welcome back to the Bullwinkle Blueprint. If you're new around here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you're coming back for some more of that good info, hey, hit that thumbs up. It is the ultimate way to support the channel, and it is free, 100% free, to take 2 seconds out of your listening experience and hit that in 39.
So yeah, you can see even if XRP is around $3 mark, I feel like a lot of people are asking it to be, $20,000, for example, but it needs time, of course. And I feel like it's going to take another 4 years, 2 years, whatever it is. But the good thing is we never know 100% about the market. So, while it could, be $4 and now underperform the ETFs, the real fun factor is it can really change around overnight. Like, a lot of people don't expect how much this can change overnight and completely go the other opposite direction.
Dollars. It's currently up 3.13%. Ethereum coming in at 4,300. It's up.
I mean, wasn't it 4,300 anyway before? So I'm not too bullish about the markets right now. Actually, kind of bearish. But again, I started this in July, if I remember correctly, or June. And let's say July. And now in these 3 or 4 months, you can actually see that the markets are kind of staying in the same place. Yes, we're getting another bump and then another bump. Would be awesome if we got more of them. But it's still in very early stages.
3.5%. An XRP, yeah, buddy. It's if you're looking at the screen right now, XRP is 175 billion total market cap. Tether is 174 billion, but for some reason XRP is still the number 4. Manipulation, what are we calling it, folks? XRP, I'll call it as it is, back at the number 3 spot, coming in at $2.93. Cha-ching, cha-ching. 3.91 trillion is the total cryptocurrency market cap, and look, you've probably seen the headlines. The U.S. government shut down.
I mean, this is not a big problem. Again, it is historically, but when you look at the price charts, the U.S. government is not just going to fail overnight. Of course, it's just a legislation type of thing.
Get it. Markets panic? I don't think so. Crypto doesn't shut down, but the fear is spreading, and people are going to assume everything is on hold. But here's the truth. The SEC doesn't stop working. ETF approvals don't stop. They're driven by the SEC's 240-day deadlines, and shutdowns or not, the law doesn't change. Decisions must be made. Tick tock. Now, why does that matter for us? Well, because XRP is sitting at the front of the line. 6 different XRP ETF applications are under review right now. Final review.
So yeah, these are going to be approved, and these are going to pump the markets. But if you want to see the prices go up again, the important factor is the market, other parts of the market are good as well, not just the XRP.
Deadline, we need a yes or a no. There is no more kicking this can down the road. Even if Washington grinds to a complete halt, the ETF timeline doesn't. And here's where it gets wild, because shutdowns historically make investors seek harder assets, gold, Bitcoin, and now XRP. Imagine ETF approval lining up with peak market fear. That's how wealth transfers happen. And this time, XRP is positioned as the safe bet with regulatory clarity. And just as October kicks off, BlackRock, they're scooping up almost 200 million worth of Bitcoin and 127.
So yeah, BlackRock, I guess it's buying like a whale is buying through BlackRock, so not like actually BlackRock themselves.
$1 million in Ethereum. This isn't some hedge fund dabbling. This is the largest asset manager on earth, controlling over 9 trillion, doubling down on October 1st, aka October. And here's what no one...
Everyone's calling it October. I'm not too sure if we're actually going to get another pump in October or is it going to be November. But anyway, could go either way here.
Saying, and I'm not afraid to say it, BlackRock isn't just making a bet. They're signaling the future. If they are willing to allocate this much into Bitcoin, Ethereum, before Q4 even really kicks off, what do you think happens once XRP ETFs get the green light? BlackRock moves strategically. Bitcoin, Ethereum, that's your warm-up. A little appetizer, as we like to say around here. The end game is the alt with the clearest regulatory win in U.S. history. And it goes by the name of XRP. These buys prove institutions are preparing not for today, but for what's coming in weeks. And it all ties back to the XRP ETFs, which are officially 17 days away.
So yeah, that historically speaking, XRP had its biggest gains in Q4, just like all other cryptos. So yeah, it's not just XRP that had the biggest gains, it's all cryptos combined. So let that sink in, guys. It is still a bullish move. 2014, look at that, 426% is definitely a very big number.
Let's talk about timing. XRP doesn't just move randomly. It moves historically in Q4. Every single cycle, October through December, XRP has printed some of its largest gains. You don't believe me? Look at the chart on the screen. Q4. Last year we did a 240%. I guess it's around a $7, $8 XRP. And now, with lawsuit clarity, ETFs pendings, and institutions loading up, this Q4 is shaping up to be the perfect storm. The data doesn't lie. Traders who ignored Q4 rallies in the past, they got left behind. And this year, the setup is even stronger. Think about it. XRP has never had legal clarity in the US until now. Combine now with ETF money on deck, and we're looking at a Q4 that could make every past rally look like a freaking warm-up. History is rhyming again, and XRP is about to hit the chorus. They're going to hit that high note. And hey, the Instagram page, it's up and running.
So yeah, pretty awesome news though that, XRP still has another bull run rally. But again, it hasn't really been like 2021 where we had just a few months and then another super rally. And I don't think like the past will repeat the present. But $400 million Solana Treasury, we also have $20 million one for XRP. So this is, if just 1% of global payment infrastructure goes on-chain, XRP takes it all. And I mean, that would be awesome. But to get to that, to convince 1% of the world, XRP is already going to be like big as NVIDIA probably.
I've ever heard about XRP. Manica Long went on record and she stated, and I am quoting this, if just 1% of global payment infrastructure goes on chain, XRP takes it all. Let that sink in for a second. That is the president of Ripple telling you that if 1% of global payment infrastructure goes on chain, XRP takes it all. We just had Eric Trump come out.
I mean, that is a very big portion of the market, true. But like Swift is already dominating it. So it's still a very far move ahead to actually go there. Like, this is a truth bomb. If 1% of global payment infrastructure, but Ripple can't even handle 1% right now. That's what we were talking, that Ripple is not at this point to handle 1%.
And told you that Swift is broken, that Swift is being replaced. And the whole reason he got into crypto is because the banks debanked him. And crypto is a way to fight back against the banks.
It's more to make the payment processing faster, but there's a lot of them, like a lot of banks are already doing these instant payments. It's just the old banks that really need to switch, right? These transfers that take 3 to 4 days.
So we're not just talking 1%. Excuse me, we're just talking
I feel like 4% will be done in like 4 years.
1% of global payments. We're not talking 50 or 20 or 10. We're talking a whopping 1%. And XRP, with its speed, its cost efficiency, and regulatory clarity, is positioned to capture it. We're talking about trillions of dollars in annual volume. And now with ETFs set to unlock institutional trillions more, Monica isn't just making a bold claim. She's confirming what Ripple's been building towards all along.
I mean, that's what Ripple is building. It's trying to get that market cap, that small percent that would really push them forward. But right now, it's all about passing through the regulation first. Once they pass the regulation, then I feel it's going to be 10 times easier for them. But we're really waiting for the Clarity Act, which is coming in October, November. Those are going to be the key months that are going to matter everything for crypto.
XRP as the backbone of global finance. Think about the dots we just connected. Government shutdown doesn't stop ETFs. BlackRock is positioning XRP historically as it rips in Q4. And now Ripple's president is telling you outright that XRP is the asset for global payments. This isn't just bullish. This is destiny unfolding. So let's wrap this all together. There's a lot to take in. This is one of the most bullish videos I have ever done. And I'm asking all of you to share it, send it to a friend, and to hit that thumbs up. Government shutdown doesn't matter. ETF approvals still move forward. BlackRock loading up on Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah, BlackRock is definitely loading up on Ethereum and Bitcoin. Hopefully they load up on some XRP once their ETFs are gone through. They haven't even applied for it yet, and I'm not too sure why they have not.
Signaling what's next.
I mean, that's the BlackRock clients. A lot of people are saying BlackRock is buying. It's not BlackRock. It's literally the clients getting all that XRP.
XRP historically dominates in Q4. And we're here again. Ripple's president just confirmed the global vision that XRP is going to take it all. The writing's on the wall. October and Q4 are about to reshape XRP forever. And you're hearing about it before the masses.
So yeah, basically this is the moment when XRP is setting up for the future. And the future 4 years, which are going to be the most important factor. So smash that like button if you guys haven't already. And Ripple breaking exit job. We do have kind of more news here.
I think Bitcoin
XRP holders won't see this for another 15 years.
In a good...
So again, some of the patterns in crypto, they only happen for once per 10 years, once per 15 years. There were literally some things that we're never going to see again in crypto. Like a big exchange failing, that could definitely happen again. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, what XRP has done, I have only seen with something that would be once per 10 years.
I think in a great space right now. Some of the better treasury companies that are either cash flow neutral or positive and their MNAVs have come down a lot. I think that's been somewhat de-risked, especially if they're the ones that also have pretty low leverage. I think those are in decent shape. Gold I like longer term, but the value investor in me is a little bit...
So yeah, the issue with gold, it's rising so much. You don't know if you can like buy tons of it and actually transport around. You can lose it. That's not a thing with XRP. Yes, you can lose the wallet. But XRP really has that long-term play here where gold cannot be developed anymore. XRP can be still developed for the years ahead. Like even 20 years from now, they're still going to update the technology behind it, which has developed so much.
Pretty high, pretty fast.
Yeah.
I started warning about that back in April, and it did this pretty long consolidation. It recently just broke out of it. So I got a little bit more kind of bullish again, but it's still just a little frothy. We'll see.
So we've just come through a very pivotal moment in the entire crypto industry where multiple cryptos like Bitcoin, Solana, XRP, and all the other ones tested these bottoms. XRP, as some of you may know, went down to 267 very briefly before very quickly rebounding to the price points that we're at right now. And while it is indeed possible there's going to be more volatility in the next months ahead, the upside is outweighing the downside risk extremely heavily. I mean, we're talking about 95+% odds that things are going to start looking much better.
That's because of the rate cuts. The rate cuts really push that forward here.
From here on out. And Lynn Alden is going to explain some new perspectives that I have not shared with you guys ever before. So please smash that like button so everyone in the XRP army sees this video, and let's get into it.
Kind of what we're in now is fiscal dominance still. So the same drum I've been beating for a while, but it's kind of fiscal dominance with a slightly slowing underneath aspect to it, because we have other headwinds like tariffs, a little bit of cracks in the labor market, nothing particularly strong. And so
the market is still perfect at this point. Like, it's even holding on to the near all-time highs.
It's kind of one of those things where data, you can always find data to support something if you want to find the things that are kind of running hot. There's plenty of data points out there to find them. If you want to find the things that are looking really bad, I mean, commercial real estate's slowly been having issues, and obviously the residential real estate market's been, at least volume-wise, pretty much slammed shut for a while. Like I said, little cracks in the labor market, a lot of indicators still not looking great. So any camp can kind of find what they're looking for. But I think basically the summary is the private sector itself is in a somewhat sluggish state right now, but when you're running 6 or 7% of GDP structural deficits without a recession, that is a type of stimulus. And I think that's the environment that we're in, and that's a lot of that is baked into the cake rather than something that was kind of an active decision this year or last year. It's kind of more structural. It's based on entitlements. It's partially based on interest expense, partially defense, and all this stuff that's intertwined there. And a lot of that is pretty embedded and keeping things somewhat elevated in kind of that K-shaped economy or two-speed economy, whatever terminology people use. We can only kind of focus on what we can control. I would not anticipate the cavalry's coming anytime soon, so I wouldn't expect the fiscal side to get its act together in any sort of investable time horizon, which basically means that it's on kind of people to have to do it themselves. And depending on their level of knowledge, their volatility tolerance, and all sorts of things, there's different assets that can do it. I think that Bitcoin's the fastest horse in the race.
I have seen gold rise, but compared to Bitcoin and XRP, like XRP just absolutely exploded.
Paul Tudor Jones and others have kind of been saying that for years, and I agree. Some people like gold, some people like equities, some people like Bitcoin, some people like real estate, some people like all the above, or some subset of the above. I'm kind of in I like equities and gold and Bitcoin. But I do think that Bitcoin is, if you look back 5 years from now, it'll probably have had the best performance of that group, I'd expect, probably 10 years as well. And it's one of the things you can do. When we look at like the public level, I mean, nothing short of like really fixing healthcare expenses, for example, or fixing just the overall, revenue and taxation aspect of the government is really going to meaningfully address this, which mostly puts it down to the individual. As stablecoins were already growing pretty rapidly, and as there's pretty clear demand for them, it made sense for them to try to bring them into the fold. So 5+ years ago, stablecoins were very small. They were kind of on the periphery. But now, I mean, there's individual stablecoins that have, well over 100 billion, and collectively, it's a multi-$100 billion industry. I think it could clear on its way to, $1 trillion in AUM eventually.
This is a very good point. I agree with that. There is stable coins are something that even government has talked about, like going all in on, and tokenization.
These are really big pools of capital. It's basically the modern euro dollar. So offshore dollars is kind of the biggest use case for them. But of course, you can bring some of them onshore for certain purposes too. Anyone who sent an international wire can potentially see the benefit of stablecoins and how efficient they can be. And of course, people that want dollars in jurisdictions where it's harder to get physical dollars, it's also obviously a pretty powerful use case. So I do think it makes sense for the government to want to codify how they work. Naturally, banks get spooked by them because so they try to make it so that stablecoins can't directly pay yield and things like that, so that they don't compete too much with bank deposits. There's been a long history of whether it's central bankers, whether it's the government, kind of being fearful of kind of full reserve looking things.
Yeah, that's right.
So because they worry that if something is full reserve and something fractional reserve, what happens to the fractional reserve one? Why wouldn't all the capital just suck out?
Exactly.
And then what does that do to the entire current lending dynamic that has all the existing stakeholders that like it the way it is?
Well, and sorry to interrupt you, but it kind of goes to the brilliancy of stablecoins as a business model, right? Because it's like you're issuing a token, it's backed 1-to-1 with the US dollar, and now you're taking that dollar, putting it into a treasury that's yielding 4%. So you're essentially just printing money. I mean, these are extremely profitable ventures, right?
Yes, as long as, they're hard to get because there's liquidity network effects in play. So it's easier to start a bank than it is to start a stable coin. So it kind of rewards the earliest movers that got through things and are now the top 1, 2, potentially 3 stablecoin issuers. But for those that can get to that point, it's quite lucrative. Another way of putting it is that the really big banks in the country, they can have they have a pretty big deposit base of like near zero yielding deposits. Whereas a lot of smaller banks struggle to retain their deposits and they have to pay a higher rate. So stablecoins right now are able to pay even before certain laws kind of make it harder to pay yield. Just clearly there's been enough demand for them without them passing on any of that yield. And because there's fairly few issuers that have any sort of network effect to speak of, it's been extraordinarily profitable, like kind of up there in like the most profit you can get per employee.
And this is what I've been trying to tell everyone that I work with in the finance space, because I've been getting very much involved in the public sector, in real estate, and many other different asset classes too. And
that's what's good with XRP. I fully agree with that. Like, there's nothing that gives better returns. Again, it's super risky. It is, but everyone who bought real estate got off worse than if they bought XRP. And you can't predict that in today's markets. It's actually impossible to predict. But it is a great way to show how strong technology and utility is in today's space.
most of them, they see that I do very well in crypto and they have a lot of questions for me. And this is the first thing I always explain to them. Stablecoins are going to change banks forever. Stablecoins give banks access to 4%.
I think stablecoins will change forever. Like stablecoins itself, it's going to be more regulated. It's going to take the technology of a stablecoin, but it's going to fundamentally change how it's regulated. So maybe like USDT will not be USDT. They will have their own stablecoin.
Yields when they would previously get zero just for having stablecoin dollars. It is the equivalent to a regular dollar, except for the fact that they are now purchasing treasuries with every single dollar that they have, and they can still use these stablecoins for lending and every other purpose they normally would. They're essentially becoming their own treasury yield company, and it's so efficient because every single person
That's why I feel like in 2020s, these crypto markets are in building stage. So you shouldn't feel bad like if you just came in like a year ago, because I literally think crypto is so slow, it's going to build for the next 5 years.
Banking with them, or every single person that's using their stablecoin, if they're a stablecoin issuer, is going to be able to get access to the same dollar regardless. And this is why Ripple's RLUSD is going to be so massive. They got all the regulatory approvals to get the stablecoin issued into the market, and now they're getting millions of people that are starting to get onboarded onto the stablecoin, and they're also using this for all of the businesses that they're buying, the businesses that they're integrated into RippleNet, and of course the securitized things. All of these are happening through the RLUSD stablecoin. So you got to think about all the extra liquidity and capital that's going to be flowing through the XRPL just because of the stablecoin. That is absolutely.
So yeah, I'm not too sure if they're going to be using XRPL, but the thing is, XRPL has the advantage because it can do many transfers and it is much, much cheaper. That's where XRPL wins. And if the banks decide, okay, we want to use Ledger, which some of them are, this is going to be an easy win for them. So smash that like button, guys. The XRP cycle will not play as you expect. Raoul Pal has warned us about this for years, and a lot of people don't listen because Raoul Pal is a billionaire and he's giving us this information for free about XRP, which is pretty awesome news, guys.
The liquidity withdrawal stops about here. We're at the point where we don't need to withdraw any more liquidity, and the Treasury General account is topped up.
Today, Raoul Pal is going to bring us decades of his knowledge and experience and explain to us the very simple dynamic of what is going on right now with the Treasury Secretary and what that means for XRP and all other digital assets as well, and stocks too. You guys need to listen very closely.
So the stocks are usually the first to explode, and then it's crypto XRP to follow. The ETFs are going to be awesome, but I'm still hoping really for BlackRock XRP ETFs, which are probably 80% of volume for all of the XRP ETFs. So again, there's lots of XRP ETFs, but not BlackRock, which is the biggest moneymaker here.
Because I can guarantee you guys, the next 3 months are going to be transformational for your life.
I think like the next 5 years. I'm thinking like crypto long term. Even for my channel, I'm thinking really like what's going to happen in 5 years. And that's where it really wins.
And it starts today. It starts right now. This is your last true chance. So listen up, smash that like button so everyone sees the video, and let's get right into it.
Global liquidity. We're pretty much at all-time highs as liquidity is growing at 8% a year. That is the liquidity we think of because we're crypto people or technology investors. We think of this as great. For everybody else, including for your income, this is debasement of currency, and it's totally screwing you over. Your cash savings, all of that, it's all based around this. If you're not beating this 8% annualized growth rate of global liquidity plus 3% inflation, that's 11%, your future self is getting poorer. This is the game we're in. This is why we're taking absurd, ridiculous, irresponsibly long risks in technology and crypto.
So that's the big risk, like that also the government is taking right now because they believe in the future. But obviously, because it's technology, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to develop.
Okay, why does it matter? It is what Bitcoin is. It is what NASDAQ is. It is what is driving markets. In addition, there are two different scales here. Why? Because Bitcoin is exponential based on Metcalfe's law, which is a network adoption model. So over time, you get the outperformance of the network plus the debasement, which is why it's la-la land in terms of performance. Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the big tokens. I use Bitcoin because it's easiest, it's got the longest track record to show people within. But Solana, Sui, you choose your thing. It's all based around the same thing. Why it matters, it has a 90% correlation. So 90% of the price action of Bitcoin is explained by this one macro factor.
So yeah, he's saying that 90% of the pump for the XRP and the crypto markets, which XRP right now is still kind of a baby and follows Bitcoin in a sense in terms of market cap, is because of this key factor, GMI total liquidity index versus Bitcoin access. This is like done by years of research.
Liquidity. Oh, and by the way, 96% of the NASDAQ. So what we have, and I keep trying to explain this to people, I'll explain to them tomorrow in more depth. We have a single macro variable that explains 90% of the price action of every major asset. That makes it the easiest macro risk-taking opportunity of all time because everything else is noise. Everything is just wiggles. You see the wiggles. These are wiggles. It's just noise. Wiggles. It's all noise because this is the trend. You just need...
Sometimes we say this is going to be terrible news and then nothing happens.
You need to understand liquidity and then you understand the directionality. And if you're caring about the next 3 weeks, the next day, the next month, you are doing this wrong. Global liquidity, what's it doing? Well, global liquidity year on year is not at all-time high. So we're not at the acceleration phase. We've seen global liquidity increasing. It's just ticking down recently. Oh, guess what? The markets have ticked down a bit. Bizarrely, this was the banana zone phase one correction, start of phase 2. We think it starts.
So he's calling about banana zone, which is banana zone phase 3 is basically, it's called a banana because it goes up in the price. That's why he keeps calling it that.
Doing more of this now, which is the acceleration phase. It won't do this because obviously we don't have a pandemic. So we're looking for liquidity to rise to something like 10 to 15% a year, stay there for a while, and that will start really driving assets. Okay, So the global M2 chart, here's the 12-week lead. Since July 16th, 2025, we've seen this weird underperformance. And it was like, it's broken. It's broken. See, you are morons for following this. People start forgetting about it. We don't forget. You see, what has happened in the meantime is the Treasury General Account, that is the Fed, the Treasury, have been issuing bonds to top up their general account, which is taking cash out of the system. So they've withdrawn about 500 billion since July the 16th. That has hit risk assets somewhat. And of all the risk assets, the one that's most susceptible to liquidity is crypto. So crypto got that, which has been this choppy, it went up, alts have been outperforming, then they came back down again, and it's been just a bit sloppy. Nothing more than that. There's been nothing really adverse going on, just a bit sloppy. Top of the range for ETH, top of the range for Sol, tried to break out, came back down. Fine. But generally it's because they're sloppy because liquidity has been taken out very fast. The liquidity withdrawal stops about here. We're at the point where we don't need to withdraw any more liquidity and the Treasury General Account is topped up. Okay? So that negative thing has gone probably today, tomorrow, this week, next week, whatever. It's gone. And we start to see that liquidity will play catch up. Does it catch up to this chart? I don't know, but it always has done in the past. And I'll come on to the past in a sec. Okay, then we go to the NASDAQ. It's actually done really well in recent times, following this beautifully, because 97% of NASDAQ's performance is explained by this. But look at this in the past. NASDAQ can do this shit too. This is all based on...
So yeah, you can see that as the global M2 money supply, which is what I've been telling you the last 2 months, guys. I know it's a bit hard to understand, but money supply is basically how much money the banks have on reserve. And the more money they have, the more prices go up. Now, this is delayed by 2 to 3 months. I want you guys to understand this very clearly. Then the stocks go up because of these banks. They collect more money, which means they have way more to buy all these assets. You get me, right? So it makes total sense.
Flows. So NASDAQ is getting consistent flows based on this technology bid that's going on. And it's sucking in capital from foreign investors, etc. And Bitcoin just has been sloppy because it's had less of the capital that was available. So it's the marginal capital. As the marginal capital comes back, Bitcoin outperforms. And I'll show you that. So here is... In fact, here is the chart of Bitcoin versus NASDAQ since 2022. So Bitcoin's been outperforming NASDAQ. That's its job. That's what it does. This is why we own it. And it does these kind of nice corrective patterns up, corrective pattern up. And what we've done is we're back near this old 2 standard deviation favorite place of ours where generally Bitcoin outperforms. Now, I've noticed many of you, and I noticed on X, are all like punting tech stocks.
A lot of people are saying as tech stocks go up, crypto stocks will also go up, or crypto coins. This is not true, guys. What ends up happening is because of this M2 money supply, both stocks and crypto goes up, and XRP.
And saying, well, crypto, it's boring. It's changed. The market's changed. They're all different now. It's not. Just shit happens. Short periods of time. So that happens. And what will happen is the more of you, I even heard from good hedge fund in crypto, they're like, yeah, we're thinking we're just going to trade more stocks now because the crypto market's not the same. So what they're suffering from is this, and what will happen is this. It's so fucking obvious. And I use DMARC. This is on Bloomberg. I got told off for Tom DMARC for using a fake version, but I use this anyway, and I've paid for DMARC for 20-something years, 25 years. We've got the 9-13-9 pattern. So that starts to suggest Bitcoin will outperform technology. Maybe technology corrects a bit. Bitcoin does okay. And then Bitcoin starts outperforming. And I would suggest that alts will outperform. Another interesting chart for you, not related to the liquidity flow, but located to when people start getting fixated on a particular type of market. S&P in the 90s into 2001 versus S&P today has been extraordinarily similar.
So yeah, this is 2001. I feel like this is where he says, yeah, it's been extraordinarily similar. It looks similar, like 2001's pump or 1996, like the internet boom, basically. The issue is 24 years from now is a vastly different timeline.
That's this technology narrative, the AI narrative, and how it's taken hold there. So just an interesting chart. Whether it holds forever, I actually doubt it. I think this probably comes up, then comes down. I think this whole cycle lasts a bit longer.
And so you heard it there first. This market is going to last a little bit longer than many people thought, according to Raoul Pal. I tend to agree because, of course, the M2 doesn't lie. If the Fed's cutting rates, if the Fed's printing money, it's going to extend the cycle because there's going to be more liquidity in the markets. Until there is something that comes out that starts sucking up that liquidity, well, we're going to see asset prices continue to climb. It's really that simple. You saw the 95% correlation there. You saw the 90% correlation there as well. It is so clear as day, I think, for all of you guys watching, hopefully, that this is what is going on right now. So get excited, smash that like button, share this with friends and family, and make sure you also sign up to Crusader Signal using my link down.
So yeah, you get the clear idea of why this pump is a bit delayed. I mean, I don't think it's going to be happening in October, but like until January, so there's a chance. So there's a high probability an XRP supply shock is coming. Tom Lee.
Underway. The Fed.
That's what didn't we hear about an XRP supply shock anyway at this point? We heard about XRP supply coming in. I heard about that as well. So that was pretty awesome, right? We heard a lot about XRP basically incoming big supply shock and everything getting sold on exchanges. But Tom Lee's talking about the whole crypto market.
SM moving back above 50 because that'll boost employment.
So yeah, more rate cuts means more money.
The spread of mortgages to 10 years should fall, which should boost housing. And he's reducing the benefit of owning cash. It's getting less yield. And that's going to push cash off the sidelines, and that's risk on. So in a simple way, I think the three things to focus on would be Mag 7 and AI stocks, crypto, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then interest rate sensitive groups like small caps and financials.
So I guess like because XRP is top 3, it can probably like move towards XRP anyway.
But I would say, you know, historically, the initial bigger effects tend to be monetary liquidity and the fact that cash is coming off the sidelines. Since the Fed announced its cuts, the leadership has come from crypto, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. That's very similar to what happened in 2024 when the Fed cut in September after an extended pause.
Something Tom Lee forgets, which I'm going to remind all of you guys about, is that XRP in September, when the Fed cut rates last year, absolutely exploded.
So yeah, 20 out of 21 times XRP did actually go up in price when these rate cuts happened, or at least historically. So that is what I'm excited about, guys. We are going to be seeing more historic data, and I can't wait to see it. Honestly, it's been absolutely amazing what XRP has done. But this is it. The more rate cuts we have, it's basically like checking boxes.
Way more than Bitcoin, way more than Ethereum did. And I think it's going to be no different this time around because XRP is perfectly posed to completely take over the industry. They're getting partnerships with BlackRock. They're getting tons of ETFs launched and so much more. But I digress. There's a lot of important things that Tom Lee talks about in today's video for you guys to look out for. Please listen closely. It's going to change your life. Let's get into the video.
To start this video by talking about the macro.
So yeah, Tom Lee is a billionaire, if you guys didn't know, and he's actually a very famous one because he's giving us free info on these projects.
Because the Fed easing cycle is underway. The Fed announced a 25 basis point cut on Wednesday, and it was dovish in my view because the Fed acknowledged not only is a future cuts coming, which is an easing cycle, but that he acknowledged that the inflationary pressures from tariffs was less than they were expecting. So again, more in the camp of transitory inflation. This is something that we had taken a view on over at Fundstrat, that we'd expected stocks to rally post-Fed. And we see that indeed there was good follow-through in both the NASDAQ and small caps, which outperformed the S&P, the NASDAQ up 1%, in the 24 hours after the Fed announced this cut, and small caps up 2.5%. Now you might wonder, will stocks continue to gain? And the answer in our view is yes. I'm citing some stats from Ryan Detrick at Carson Group, and he points out that when the Fed cuts within 2% of all-time highs, the S&P is higher 20 of 20 times, with an average gain of around 14%. Now you're going to wonder, what will outperform post-Fed, we just want to give you a simple framework. The Fed is dovish, and that's monetary liquidity. That should be good for risk assets. We also think the Fed wants CEO confidence to recover, which we would measure through the ISM moving back above 50, because that'll boost employment. The spread of mortgages to 10 years should fall, which should boost housing. And he's reducing the benefit of owning cash. It's getting less yield. And that's going to push cash off the sidelines, and that's risk on. So in a simple way, I think the three things to focus on would be Mag 7 and AI stocks, crypto, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then interest rate sensitive groups like small caps and financials. But I would say, historically, the initial bigger effects tend to be monetary liquidity and the fact that cash is coming off the sidelines. The leadership has come from crypto, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. That's very similar to what happened in 2024 when the Fed cut in September after an extended pause.
So yeah, after 3 months, which they cut in September, they might cut in November, which means the real pump might be in January, might be delayed. This is a very big possibility. I mean, don't underestimate that, in my personal opinion.
The stocks that are most correlated to Bitcoin and Ethereum are MicroStrategy, ticker MSTR, which gained 6% on Thursday. And Ethereum, most leveraged stock, is Bitmine, which is the largest holder of Ethereum in the world, and that gained 5%. Many of you might think markets are in a bubble because the Fed's cutting near all-time highs, but as we pointed out, that's happened many times, and 20 of 20 times stocks still gained after that. But I think the way to think of it is to think about NVIDIA, which happens to be a granny shop. But as you can see, NVIDIA's PE is 26.6 times. Now, do I think that's expensive? I don't. First of all, as you can see on this chart, it's in the middle of its range over the last 5 years. But keep in mind, Costco and Walmart trade at 48 times and 34 times earnings. These are far less scarce and unique than NVIDIA. NVIDIA is the most...
So yeah, that's when NVIDIA technology is now taking over in the big pump. It's just kind of catching up really into the big markets, if you understand what I mean.
Scarce company in the world today because they make a chip that every AI company needs. So until NVIDIA trades at the same multiple as Costco, I think NVIDIA is not in a bubble. Well, in 1998, September 98, Cisco was at $16.55 times forward earnings. Why am I setting September 1998? Well, that's similar to 2025. The Fed was on an extended pause and then they cut in September. In the following 12 months, NVIDIA went to $80 per share and its PE went to 210 times. So its stock went up 5x and the PE went up 4x. Now that's what I call a bubble. We're not there yet with NVIDIA today at 26 times forward earnings.
So if NVIDIA goes into a bubble in the future, that money has to go somewhere, right?
More importantly, look at sentiment. The AAII net bulls less bears is still negative. There's more bears than bulls at an all-time high. In fact, we've had 7 weeks now where markets have made an all-time high and yet sentiment is negative. You can't really say we're at the top if investors are bearish at the highs. So let's talk about granny stock performance. The top 5 performers of the past week are Oracle, Tesla, Vistra, Lam Research, and Palantir. Now, they're all AI related, but Oracle, of course, surged on good earnings, and Tesla is gaining because Elon Musk made a pretty big insider buy of $1 billion. The worst 5 performers were Garmin, Amazon, Robinhood Markets, Cadence Design Systems, and Netflix. Some of this is profit-taking, especially a stock like Cadence. And in terms of themes, the best performing theme was energy and cybersecurity, led by Palantir and Vistra, and GE Vernova, and labor shortage, which is Oracle, Tesla, and Lam Research. Seasonality also worked. Again, Oracle was flagged as a seasonal trade, as was Palantir. But Palantir has been a granny shot for a long time, as well as Oracle.
At this point, you guys should all know that the AI race in the blockchain industry is top of mind, and that's why you need to listen very closely.
I agree with that. technology has, like, what has been stuff in the past now is technology just hit so much. And we saw the same in 1997 with the internet bubble, basically, that burst in 2001. But during that time, wow, the gains were amazing, right? So this can repeat at a smaller scale, and this is what really pushes XRP forward. And it already did with all these lawsuits. You know, guys, it didn't just pump because the lawsuit is over. It pumped really because people believe in the technology and the use case now that crypto can provide, especially now that it's regulated, and that's where it wins.
Closely to what I'm about to tell you.
You know, every day I look at what's happening with the
So it's a very good video.
Tensor, and I draw all these parallels to the things I was seeing with Bitcoin back in 2012. I'm now seeing with the Tensor today.
Today's video is sponsored by NextGen.
So yeah, you get a guy's pretty clear idea of what Tom Lee is implying. He's implying that the old money, basically from the stocks, from the market, is going away while there's a new money coming in, which is, well, very much technology. And it's already showing up, but not at these rates. I feel like we're going to have another year, like maybe 4 years, another big boom cycle with technology, because technology takes a bit longer to consider. So we also have breaking Trump firing Powell. XRP holders, you aren't ready. I know this is a bit older in news, but I wanted to actually double down on it. President Trump posts meme of himself firing Fed Chair Jerome Powell. And again, you cannot have XRP and crypto without politics. They're very intertwined. They're very get together, basically.
Comes to think of. And this is the first time that he's directly posted a meme like this. But of course, he has talked about Jerome Powell should be removed immediately. So
I wonder what Jerome Powell, like, they even talked between each other. So why did he post something like that? I'm not too sure.
We're going to see what comes of that. Do you think?
And why would he fire him if he retires in May anyway? Or not retires, but like his term ends.
That Trump is going to be firing Powell? I guess we'll find out. There's also some other really crazy things happening in the crypto industry that you guys need to be aware about. I did mention ETFs, I did mention rate cuts, but we're also seeing Trump is going to be pardoning CZ for his previous crime and placing him on his crypto team this year. Now, this is, of course, very bullish, I think, for the entire crypto industry. CZ has a lot of connections. He's going to be able to advise the president and the crypto team in the right direction because he built the largest exchange in the world. He understands better than anyone how the crypto market works and the inner workings of it. And I do think that this is going to be a very interesting way just to see the crypto space move forward. I also think that, of course, there are some concerns here. CZ was accused of insider trading, amongst other things. And so there always are going to...
So I'm not too sure how this will happen, but obviously BNB and, you know, Binance is basically done everything and now they're fully regulated. But according to NBA star Trishan Thompson, NBA players are in text groups asking if they should buy more XRP. This is the part where I wanted to show you guys. This is why I'm coming back to this video every single day. Because, again, this is the first factor that XRP is mainstream. Literally, footballers, it gives me 2021 vibes.
That are talking about XRP is going up an insane amount. I mean, it's getting to the point where NBA stars are now talking about XRP. This NBA star, specifically Tristan Thompson, had some...
I mean, there's probably a lot of them, but not all of them are talking about XRP. Like, it is a global thing. Like, they believe in it because... The thing with Bitcoin is a lot of people feel like they missed out on it. Thing with XRP, even if 3 years pass, it's still going to be there. You could come back and XRP is still going to be around. That's what I love to see.
Interesting things to say. I just want to play this clip real quick so you guys can hear this.
Teammates have started noticing this. They ask questions now, and guys are like, you know, like, do I get more XRP? Do I buy more ETH? So like, literally, guys are texting me, and then like in a group chat saying like, yo, it's pumping.
I'm not sure why they're asking an NBA player though. Like, should they buy crypto? That's my question there here.
Yeah, like, what should I do? I'm like, hold it, long term, guys. Think long. The same way you bet on yourself to get to the NBA, you got to bet on these coins and bet on the space. Bet on what the future of digital finance is. Bet on that's what's gonna be.
And guys, just a quick recommendation, always work on yourself. Even when you're down at the lowest, if you work on yourself, you know, if you're at the bottom, you can just build that back up to the top. That's what happened to me.
Our kids, that's the form of they're not going to be walking into these banks and these institutions. They're going to be...
Right. So these are the sort of conversations that NBA stars are having. I mean, they're literally talking about XRP. I mean, it's pretty crazy when you really think about it.
This is the same thing we saw with Shiba Inu. A lot of people left Shiba Inu as soon as the price dropped. But again, I feel like a lot of people don't realize the technology of XRP. That's why you on this channel, you know the technology and what it provides to you. How many of people can do like that?
Of all of these people talking about it, some people look at this and they think of this as a top signal. They think, oh, like everyone's talking about it now. It's probably pretty close.
I don't think it's a top signal. I feel like people should like educate themselves on what XRP is. They should know what they're buying.
The peak. I would say just look back to 2021. Yes, everyone was talking about it. And yes, we hit the peak within 12 months of like all of this mass media frenzy that was going on. But during those 12 months is when all the money was also made. So, yes, you absolutely could sell right.
I feel like it's kind of like, it's risky, obviously, because you don't know when the top is going to be. But we're at this stage, in my personal opinion, is where people come in and they want to just skim off the top. Like, just make 25% extra. Not like they're not expecting 400% for XRP, like this cycle, but they are expecting maybe like 20%, 40%, 25%. So again, I think that's what's gonna happen to XRP, like $4, $5, and slowly going back down. But again, I don't have a crystal ball. Anything could happen
now, and I think most people who have been watching my channel for any longer than a year would be in massive profits for sure. Or, you could wait just a little bit longer and just, wait for things to play out. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments that'll say things like, oh, you should never sell your XRP. And you have every right to think that. I've just been part of so many bull runs at this point, and I've seen the same movements every single time that.
Yeah, Levi has been here, like, same as me, 2021. So he survived the bear market, which was one of the worst times.
I'm going to be looking to find some exits and actually, make some money and recycle those profits when the correction happens. Because I know Fed monetary policy is still going to be playing a massive role in the price of digital assets and stocks. That's not going to change until the Fed is abolished. So if I catch wind that the Fed is going to be abolished.
I don't think Fed is going to be abolished, but yeah.
Then absolutely, I'll change my, my viewpoint on this. But for now, we know the Fed's going to continue.
I'm pretty sure like every single time like that we have a bull, we have a massive correction. So just let that sink in, guys.
To be around. Trump's just looking to appoint a new Fed chair. Trump wants to print money. And of course, quantitative tightening, quantitative easing are going to continue to happen. So I'm just going to play the game around that and of course, make my moves around that. So let's talk about October. And let's talk about the ETFs. Let's talk about the impact of rate cuts. Guys, this is what our October looks like. It is jam-packed. October 18th to 25th, we have XRP.
So yeah, that's what's actually pushing the XRP price or narrative right now is very simply put, it's the prices. Like the price is what's really posting it like where it's going to end, right? So just let that sink in. It is the prices that are actually the ones that will go ahead and actually make the biggest difference.
Spot ETF final decision dates. Grayscale right here 1018, 21 shares 1019, Bitwise 1020, Canary Capital 1024, Wisdom Tree 1025, and of course all the other ones, Rex shares, Coin shares, Franklin Templeton, and you name it, all 1025 as well. This is crazy. Okay? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 different ETFs getting their final decision approval. If you're not bullish right now, I don't know what to tell you guys, okay? I don't even know if Bitcoin had this many ETF applications when it was first launching. Like, it is insane.
The thing is, Bitcoin didn't have that many, but it had the most key factors one. Like, it had BlackRock. There's no BlackRock here. That's what makes me a bit worried about these ETFs. Like, they could be a pump. Again, I'm not saying they could be like buy the news, sell the rumor, but they could be. They very much could be, in my opinion.
How many massive, institutions are getting involved in XRP? These are going to be crazy. This is going to drive billions and billions of dollars of extra volume. And so naturally,
like, don't get me wrong, ETFs are always good anyway.
I wanted to look at some previous examples of how this worked out for Bitcoin with rate cuts, how it worked out with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and of course with the ETFs as well. Because, I'm a probabilistic type of person. I want to see the probabilities. I want to see what's the likelihood of things happening. based off of these examples that we've seen previously with liquidity coming in. And luckily, we have that information. So I asked, with the Fed cutting rates 2 more times before this year end, what are the chances that the crypto market will close higher within the next 3 to 6 months? Very easy, simple question. And we can see here, based on historical rate cut cycles, Bitcoin up 80% of 3-month window post easing, current sentiment is 97% pre-cut odds translated to bullish X discussions. And
now, I wouldn't ask AI for financial advice because the thing is, it goes back on the history data. I feel like, you know, every single year we could see previous patterns. The issue here is it's very hard to predict like which pattern is right and which part is wrong. So yeah, just let that sink in, guys, because sometimes like these patterns, everyone thought everything's going to be perfect until it was not back in 2021.
Forecast, 80% plus of models predict December 2025 to current. I estimate a 75 to 85% probability the crypto market, the total cap of, or Bitcoin, like total market cap of the crypto industry or Bitcoin, closes higher by December 2025. I am 100% in agreement with this. This is exactly what I've been telling you guys time and time again, over and over, based off of...
This is what's probably going to happen, but then we're going to be seeing like full market top cycle, right, for many years.
All of the historical data, right? And March 2026, of course, leading up to that, I think we're going to probably see some pretty sizable moves, much like what we saw in November, December, January last year. Then I also asked Grok to factor in ETFs, because we saw those ETFs, of course. We want to know, what is the impact going to be of that? And Grok essentially says that the ETFs are going to bring in an even higher probability of us closing higher. Grok says that he essentially wants to boost that probability by between 5 to 15% of us closing higher within 3 to 6 months based off of that. So altcoin ETFs like XRPs elevate the probability.
I feel like the altcoin ETFs will be a bit weaker this time, so not as strong as you guys think.
To 85 to 95% total. For total market cap, closing higher by December 2025 and March 2026. Rationale is Fed cuts, 65% price, plus XRP ETF inflows and 90% approval odds outweigh risks. Bitcoin president shows 80% plus positive window post catalyst. It's actually 95%. It's actually 90% 3 months after. Weighted, 60% analyst consensus, 10 out of 12 sources are bullish, 25% history, there's alt rallies, and 15% sentiment. 9 out of 10 are pro sentiment right now. So volatility is going to continue. That is absolutely certain, but the probabilities are most definitely in our favor in that 3 to 6 month window. That is it. That is all.
So yeah, I'm guessing like October is not going to be, is a bit delayed, like, and there's a pump, but we have then November, which could double down on the massive hype that we guys have been waiting for. I mean, that would be very nice to see, but I don't think October is going to be Uptober at this point. I know I was saying that, nothing is hinting at it, at least, you know, and that's what I'm worried about is could go into a new year, which I didn't expect at all. But this scenario is quite possible, and I'm hoping that does not happen. I'm hoping we get, you know, pumps now. But again, the chances are there now. There was no chances before because we were just seeing pumps. Now, completely different. So what do you guys think about this? We also have another one from Be Crypto Smart. Now, this is another video. Massive, Stellar, and XLM about to dominate the US market. They are dominating the crypto markets already, so that would be pretty nice, I guess, because what they have done is they literally outperform both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's with technology US tokens. I predicted it correct. If you've been watching this channel for 3 months before, this was the correct prediction that I made, which is absolutely awesome, right?
Bullish or sideways. Look, September's reputation as a bad month has been around forever, but ask yourself, why the hell does it even matter if you believe in the bigger cycle? If you think Bitcoin, Ethereum, or even Stellar is going to be higher 3, 6, 12 months from now?
So look at this, what he found. White paper Stellar for CBDC, basically central banks. Again, this is the big thing. Who are they going to hire? Someone who has experience with building this already.
Be taking profit. You're too busy juggling charts to even notice the top forming. Here's the truth. most of you don't have a plan. And don't tell me you do. Because when I ask, what's your exit strategy? I usually hear something like, oh, I'll sell at the top. The top? What does that even mean? You think there's going to be a need?
So there's not going to be like an exact top, but what you do is like DCA. I know a lot of people do that and it works out for them, right? They just say, okay, I'm going to DCA slowly but surely, and that's where they win. That's where they got
flashing.
them.
Top is in? Sell now? No, there won't be. You'll be euphoric. You'll think, just a little more. And then bang, the floor disappears. I lived that. Back in 2021, I was sitting on a portfolio that looked invincible. I thought I was a genius. I had 7 figures on paper. I could have walked away, retired my parents, bought a house, changed my life. But I didn't have a concrete exit plan. I just thought, the music won't stop yet. Maybe I can squeeze a little more. Then it all reversed. Profits evaporated in what felt like days. And let me tell you, watching money you thought was guaranteed vanish is the kind of scar that changes you forever. I was lucky I still walked away with enough to quit my job, but it should have been life-changing. Instead, it was just a reminder of how brutal this market is when you don't plan. So let me be very clear. You need a plan before you even buy. You need to know not just when you'll enter, but when you'll rotate, when you'll exit, and under what conditions you'll sell. For example, historically, Bitcoin dominance dropping below 50% has been a warning sign. Alt season might feel amazing, but when dominance slips under 50%, you should already be scaling out.
I mean, that's the thing. We don't know. Like, a lot of people expected that for XRP, XLM, whatever you want to call it. Suddenly, the prices go up, right? That's what happened 2021. Everyone sold in August, said, this is it. I'm out. It's over. That's what I saw a guy do in 2017, you know, but the prices recovered that way.
Unlucky, but because the system is literally designed that way. The market is engineered to shake you out, bleed you dry, make you panic, and hand your money to...
I just think it's about hype, right? If there's no hype, people think, oh, it's over, I'm going to sell. It's that simple, in my personal opinion. But XRP will keep building, don't get me wrong. It's just that, you know, how much is this going to affect the prices? It's over for XRP, and Swift just replaced it.
Pressing some of the hundreds of comments out there that are concerned with the Swift announcement of them introducing their own blockchain-based...
Yeah, so Swift saw this as a competition, XRP competition. Of course, they were aware of it, and they want to build something of their own. But again, you know, they're competing in a completely competitive market that XRP has been building for 13 years. Can they outperform that?
Ledger, and how perhaps this may affect the likes of XRP and the XRP ledger. Does it make it irrelevant? I think many people are asking, and the short answer is no. It's a multi-chain world that we're moving towards.
And again, you don't need to just be on one chain. It's not going to be like a big corporation where everything's going to be on one chain. It could be that they are just building for their own customer base, right? They will never work with XRP because it's their competitor. So it makes total sense for them to build something of their own value.
And one chain isn't going to be able to do everything. Even if you look at what Swift do, they do the equivalent of the world's GDP in terms of value transfer every 2 to 3 days. Do you think that that's just going to occur on one ledger, being Swift's ledger, that it's doing with around about 30 banks?
So, I mean, yeah, Swift has that advantage because it was the first one, but XRP even said if we just take a small portion of Swift market cap, they don't have to take 100%. It's already going to vastly outperform, you know, the future potential. Like, it's already going to be as big as NVIDIA. It's one of the biggest companies right now. There's like, 900 employees, which is a ton.
And the interesting thing with those 30 banks is many of them actually have connections to Ripple themselves, or are actually on Ripple's network, or have been testing. So the announcement obviously yesterday, and we've got a really interesting video lined up for you, because one thing that we put forward yesterday is despite them announcing this blockchain-based ledger, we don't know all the ins and outs of it, and we don't know if it's going to kind of be a ledger of ledgers, as it were. A blockchain-based ledger, so a ledger based around multiple different blockchains. And we don't know quite what role it's going to play. One role that I think it's still confidential, like, so nobody copies it.
But Swift to add blockchain-based ledger to its infrastructure stack, and groundbreaking move to accelerate and scale benefit of digital finance across more than 200 countries and territories worldwide. Like, they're just going on and adapting. You can't be like annoyed at them for that. What they're doing is they adapt to the market. They don't want XRP, which they have XRP is doing right now, to take all of the market cap.
I think it's going to play is providing liquidity. And we're going to listen to an individual from Swift recently, a few days ago, who was interviewed with Sergey from Chainlink, the CEO of Chainlink Labs. And he says something interesting in regards to now their customers who have been demanding the implementation of DLTs will be able to explore new paths of liquidity, which Swift haven't announced. As far as I'm aware, there is only one cryptocurrency that can provide that, and that is XRP. So we will be covering that.
There's going to be other competitors, but to catch up to XRP is going to be very hard.
That predominantly in this video. But it's interesting that with the Swift announcement, they announced all of these banks here. There's a big list of them. And the interesting thing is quite a few of these actually have partnered directly with Ripple or indirectly. Like AK Bank, that was reported as part of Ripple's partner banks list. E.g. banks partnered with Ripple include AK Bank. We'll show you that in just a second. ANZ, historical...
Oh, okay. So a lot of them are still partnering. I feel like XRP's plan is about 4 years in. So it's going to take like 4 years for them to do these big plans they have. Ripple is like basically setting up for the future. In my personal opinion, I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's moving way slower than you guys expect technology. You know, all this, like, Ripple cannot handle even 1% of the world yet. It's going to see pumps now, but the real money is going to come after, in my personal opinion.
Reports of experimentation / trials with Ripple's technology. Banco Santander, publicly known as a Ripple-connected bank, e.g. via Ripple's OnePay FX. Bank of America have cited in media as testing Ripple solutions. They've also got patents involving Ripple. And we've got BBVA, named amongst banks that have joined Ripple's network. MUFG, of course, we know about, frequently listed as a RippleNet participants or partner bank. Standard Chartered, of course, known to have had a strategic involvement with Ripple, invested use of RippleNet, and Westpac reports that Westpac Australia experimented or tested Ripple technology in previous years. There are a lot more connections, but it's round about 12 of those banks that were listed as being the kind of banks that are going to help facilitate with Swift this blockchain-based ledger. Actually already have connections with Ripple, which is interesting. But what I
mean, they could be like getting connections with both, and then they would pick the right one, right? The one that provides more value, in my opinion. That's a very big possibility. So I guess that's what could happen in what Ripple's long-term plan is, in my opinion.
Because we there's a lot we don't know about Swift's new blockchain-based ledger and its role. One role that I don't think it's going to be able to achieve, which is kind of the secret source of Ripple and XRP as an asset, is to be able to provide that on-demand liquidity. I see XRP, and we looked at this in yesterday's video, and this is kind of continuation of it, to hopefully clarify what's going on and answer some of the questions that people have. XRP as a watering hole filled with liquidity that everybody will go to drink from. And what I mean by that is XRP, I think, is going to play a role in the world that we're moving towards as being the enabler for cross-currency transactions. So in a world where the dollar is the only currency, you don't need to facilitate cross-border transactions. In a world where you have multiple different currencies, you need bridge asset, an asset that can have that liquidity in it via having a high market cap, that will be able to allow for the facilitation of transactions.
So this is where XRP wins. So Swift wins in sending transfers, but XRP has been very vocal about their plan, which is basically when somebody will have a US dollar or even vice versa. Let's say they have a Mexican peso. They will want to buy some USD. Now they can keep it on the chain. And again, a lot of people want to get, they blame the dollar and whatever. But the dollar is still very strong compared to some other currencies, which I don't want to name. and then they're going to hold with their, for example, pesos or whatever, they're going to hold the US dollar. And this is going to make it very cheap in transfer fees, which seems that, XRP will win that way and get these transfers, which will burn XRP. So hopefully you understood what I just said.
That currently take place today. Right now, that's done in the form of correspondent banking. And in your Nostro Vostro accounts, you have, I think it's $27 trillion sat there in parked capital. That has to be there as pre-funded accounts to enable the kind of global world in regards to FX transfers that takes place. XRP is a solution to that. And actually, we're going to look at what Swift's Chief Innovation Officer has to say in regards to what his customers can now start to explore. And the interesting thing is, the ledger that they announced isn't tackling this problem. Nothing out there, to my knowledge, is solving the problem of liquidity between correspondent banking like XRP is. And it's a new paradigm. It's a new way of correspondent banking working. And I don't think people quite understand that Chainlink is not a competitor to XRP or some of the other public blockchains out there. And it's a few bad actors that are propagating this narrative right now in regards to Chainlink replaces all public distributed ledgers. I don't understand that. To me, Chainlink actually enables them and enables the traditional financial space to gain access to them in this kind of standardized manner, being perhaps Chainlink CCIP or their Oracle data feeds. So let's dive into what this individual from Swift said with Sergey Nazarov, who of course is...
the thing is, we are still super early stages, and this is basically going to be a huge battle to fight for the market cap in that sense. That's all there is to it. They're fighting for the market cap of these big trillions and trillions of dollars. It's probably one of the most expensive battles there will be because the technology is really changing and people are going for different plans right now. They're going for, actually changing the whole system. And when you change the whole system, of course, you have, suppliers for that. And the suppliers are XRP and Swift and some other smaller projects like Stellar, for example. Stellar is going very hard on online, working with PayPal and stuff like that. But XRP and Swift are going for banks.
CEO, and he says something very interesting, certainly in regards to liquidity, which we know XRP is there to address.
Allow you to differentiate yourself and to service your customers better. And that's really what we're seeing. The second part of the answer is we see the demand from the customers. You see that growth in demand. Yeah, and on the innovation kind of arc, when people know something's possible, they spend a lot more time and a lot more energy on it. Well, like you said, if there was, bad news or people weren't quite sure, hey, we're not really going to move on this because there's uncertainty. Whether it's good uncertainty or bad uncertainty, but markets need certainty. And when they see that and they go, okay, now that exists, now I got something to work with. Now I'm going to spend some cycles on research. Now I'm going to spend some time thinking about, new models for liquidity. I'm going to spend some time thinking about, new models for liquidity. And so,
kind of makes sense. Like what they're saying here right now is there's going to be probably partnerships at some point with all of these together.
I wouldn't say that's the complete flywheel, but it definitely helps pick.
I don't think XRP and Swift will ever work together, though. That's going to be a big problem, a no-no for them, because it's two competitors like McDonald's and Burger King. You go to McDonald's or you eat Burger King. Each is the same. Each is a burger. It's just the quality is the difference.
Momentum.
Yeah. So there was a great uncertainty put around, obviously XRP with the old SEC waging war upon it. He says something very interesting there. He says, now people can start to explore new forms of liquidity. And XRP is literally a paradigm shift, a complete overhaul of how correspondent banking has previously worked, and potentially an implementation of an entirely new way of doing things via XRP. And if it's successful in that use case, which I think it potentially is going to be, the value of it, I think, is far beyond even my comprehension, as it is going to serve really a role as a kind of global, neutral bridge, world reserve currency. And everything that's been announced really doesn't change any of that. What I want to do, I've got a number of clips for you, is play you a clip quickly of Chris Larson back at Sibos 2014, where he actually talks about how the networks, whether that be Swift or Visa or Earthport, can essentially plug into this and actually use and utilize it for their customers which we just heard the Swift CIO, Chief Innovation Officer, actually just say that now there's that certainty, people are going to look to explore in regards to new paradigms for liquidity. Let's dive into this.
Value exchange, and that's really the mission that we're trying to accomplish. What does that mean for financial institutions? Well, it means that banks remain the custodians, but they can also do...
So he's basically, he sold some XRP. I know he sold like 2% of his XRP, but he knows a lot about what's actually happening in the banking system. These are the people that are going to change banks at this scenario.
For that exchange of value. It's a fundamental structural change in correspondent banking. The networks, whether that be Swift or Visa or Earthport, they can also use those same benefits for their customers. The networks, whether that be Swift
what's actually happening in the banking system. These are,
they can also use those same benefits for their customers. And then for regulators, we actually think this is also a big step forward because you get so much more transparency. It's so much easier to track sort of degrees of separation tools in real time. We think it actually shortens the time it takes to catch the bad guy.
Very interesting, certainly given what Swift's sort of Chief Innovation Officer has just said. A couple more clips for you guys, really just sort of continuing to express what XRP is and how it fits into things. And with the announcements that we've seen, none of its use case is even competed with.
I feel like that's why Swift also, or not Swift, but XRP also went out of their way and started building new products, because this is competition. Obviously, where there's money, there's always going to be competition. And they announced RWA to actually fight for this.
You know, Swift launching their own blockchain-based ledger. Well, there's a lot that we've still got to find out about this. But that doesn't replace XRP in regards to a bridge asset. And even with stablecoins and CBDCs, you still need that intermediary to kind of enable the highway of the Internet of Value to take place. You still need that piece of technology, that piece of crypto to be implemented to actually allow for one value to transact with another and to be swapped in an efficient manner.
This is going to be a very hard thing to actually, add. So just think about it. This is not going to be an easy process. It's going to be a very hard process to make XRP fast, efficient bridge between two assets. Again, this could take years, guys, because if they make an error, some of this money could be lost. They must have zero mistakes on this one. I will keep you guys updated on more on this one, guys. Smash that like button if you haven't already.